We are live.
You're squared up?
We are. With that. Hello, YouTube. We are getting everything settled so that we can be live today on Facebook
TGIF.
and YouTube. Yes, TGIF.
All right, what you got for us today, Holly?
What do we have for us? Well, I just want to say thank you again for joining today.
Thank you
I'm
for
Holly
having me.
Amato, real estate specialist, and this is Ken Maciejewski, Simple Home Lending. And we are really excited to be able to bring.
Now you're live on Facebook.
Oh, and now we're live on Facebook. So happy Friday, TGIF. We are live on YouTube and Facebook. We're really moving up in the world, Ken.
I know, getting famous.
I mean, this is big time for us.
Yeah, I think there's like 3 viewers
Oh
now.
my goodness. So again, I'm Holly Amato, real estate specialist with the fabulous Ken Maciejewski, Simple Home Lending.
25 years in the mortgage business and still alive and ticking. So.
It's very impressive. Yeah, you've helped me through getting divorced and having to get into a house, which was like a miracle in and of itself. Refinancing said house, moving into the next house, and refinancing that one. So we have quite the history together.
A lot of navigating little issues, and it's good to work hard for really good people. And I remember the little things that happened through the time that it was there's so many if-thens that can happen through the divorce. So it was really nice to get to work with you, get to know you, and now to build this business relationship and friendship together.
Absolutely, I love it, and that's a crucial point to what we're going to talk about today. So, big disclaimer: we're not attorneys, we're not financial advisors, we're not licensed in either of those arenas. We're licensed in mortgage and real estate. So, always going to have you talk to your attorney and your financial advisor with the information that we're going to provide today, because the if-thens, and everybody's situation is different. And it's not a cookie cutter. Divorce is never cookie cutter. I kind of thrive in that, though. It gives me, I know you do too. You like some of the situational things that you have to figure out, because it does create a little bit of a problem to solve, but it really feels great, especially working with people going through divorce, when you can hold their hand through the process, get them to the other side, and then you get to watch their life blossom. I have so many friends now that I met as they were going through divorce. We sold their home, got them into a new home. Then some of them sold their home again, watch them, move on with life. And it's really rewarding to go through that process.
No, there's a lot of things that I can say, and that's the one thing that you feel proud about. Having been something for 25 years, is like you can say that you have some wisdom. And the wisdom that I would say I've gained over the years dealing with people that went through divorce is being able to advise people to unplug from your ego, unplug from your emotions.
Right.
And, because there's a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of hard times that go through this process, and you have to objectively look at where you want to be. And sometimes when you unplug from that, you can more objectively look and solve problems to get to the other side, because getting to the other side is important. And that fork in the road can go either way, going to apartment or somewhere else. Multiple changes, it just might not be as good. So it's so important to find your next place that you call home, that you can plant your roots in, because it's going through divorce. And I know when you went through it, just a tremendously hard time. I got so much respect for you for going through that and doing a good job and raising your children. And just, it's really good to see you happy in your house.
Thank you. Well, and that's the thing. When I was getting divorced, I had a real estate agent that worked with me and helped me, because I wasn't in real estate yet. I knew nothing. And I was like deer in the headlights. I have 3 kids. I don't want to be homeless. What's going to happen? And so between the two of you helping me out, brought me to that place where I could get into that first home. And now I'm in the second home post-divorce. And it's what's really important that I tell people is, when you're working with someone going through divorce, it's going to be a different process, because there's going to be a lot more conversation. There's going to be a lot of hand holding, and really you need to choose someone that you trust, because it's big. I mean, you're essentially, I hate to say tearing your life apart, but that's basically what it is. You're really unraveling these bonds and these things that you've established, especially if you have kids. So today, I hope that we can bring some great information to those of you who may find yourself in a divorce or contemplating, a divorce. Nobody wakes up one day and just files. It's what we know is people think about it for sometimes up to 3 years, they say, 3 months to 3 years before they actually file is one of the metrics that I heard, and who knows, we can't get into everybody's head. But so yeah, a question that I get asked a lot is, what's the best time to sell during a divorce? Like, is it during a divorce? Is it pre-divorce? Is it post-divorce? And each one of those stages has its own pros and cons. But again, working with that attorney, coming and talking to us so we can see everything and all the scenario and where we're at with the market and what's going on. Some people want to keep the house because they have school-aged kids and they want to finish. And, sometimes that's a great option, but sometimes it's not a great option when you're looking at dividing assets, because when are you going to divide that asset? The home is a big asset, and are you going to be in a seller's market when you go to sell it, when the kids graduate 5-10 years down the road? Is it going to be a buyer's market? Are you not going to be situated where you could be, like if you sold today? So, a lot of those factors are important, and we really need to kind of address them in a specific sense. I always say to people, right now it's a seller's market. So this isn't right now. So today is March 11th, 2022. Am I right about that? March 11th? Okay, 2022. So today we're in a seller's market. And, there's not much that's going to hinder the sale of a home unless it's got a lot of issues. Yeah. But we always say, when I walk through a house with a potential buyer, I can usually tell if someone's going through a divorce.
Yeah.
And if I want to, I can look it up. It's public knowledge. So a lot of times that could potentially hurt you as the seller, because the buyer is looking at it like, oh, they have to sell. Oh, they're in this process and they're emotional, and everybody just wants out. If you've ever been through a divorce, you want out. You don't want to stay in that scenario anymore. So sometimes that could affect your offers. So I like to tell sellers, if you can kind of keep your clothing, some of it, so it doesn't look like one person has moved out, or not make it so obvious, that's helpful. If you want to sell it before you file for divorce and work that out, great, because nobody's going to know. Or sometimes if you wait till after the divorce is final, you have that final judgment. Same thing, you can look it up and say, oh, they got divorced, but it doesn't mean they're in a situation where, they have to sell. It's post-divorce. So it doesn't give off that, I'm desperate vibe.
And I think speaking into like the, going through the process, or wherever you're at in the process, whether you decided you're going to divorce, you're heading into it, like the filing for divorce that's one of the things that we can do, is sit down and advise you go through the credit, and really you're going to need how to best untie the umbilical cord, or to cut the umbilical cord between the two, or try to paint that picture of what it looks like and how difficult it's going to be. It may not change your decision on if and when to file, but at least it helps you. You got to paint that picture of what the other side of your life looks like, because once you can do that, you're like, all right, and that picture starts coming into focus. Of course, you want to try to do everything you can to keep the marriage together, but sometimes it gets to that point where it's, just things unfold to a point where it's going to be there. So having those answers, and we can't give you the answers to, but we'll just give you the questions. You need to ask yourself and some advice based on the facts, and that picture will come into focus as you start engaging that, and with people that care. And I think that's why I enjoyed working with you over the years. It's just, I've always found that just caring and generally listening to people and having a heart for how to help people along the way is what's good.
It's crucial.
Yeah.
I think last year, what was my metric? I think 80% of my business, and I had my best year ever, was 2021. 80% of my business was people getting divorced, or people that had gotten a divorce and were now selling at home because we're moving on with life. So it's a big, death and taxes, they say, are always, they're always constant. So is divorce. Unfortunately, it's a sad fact, but it's the truth. There's always people getting divorced. So there's always going to be a need for professionals to be able to come alongside, really not take advantage of the situation, and just be there and be that sounding board. And again, my people perish for lack of knowledge. What you don't know, you don't know. So getting that information and being able to determine what works best is huge. And also, so getting back to what I was mentioning, when to sell, another issue with getting your house ready to sell is just staging. It's pretty simple stuff, but you want to, if you know that you're not going to list for, 3 months, but one person is definitely moving out and you're dividing up those assets, call me. If you know, if we're going to be listing, let me bring the photographer in and take photos while it's staged, because it just looks nicer in photos. It helps people who are walking through. Not everybody has the mind frame to be able to say, okay, would my sofa fit here? Or how about the tables? You know, they can kind of, that helps. It does help sell a house staging. And I don't want anyone to have to pay for staging. I don't usually recommend. You don't have to do that really in this market, depending on price point and different, you know, different aspects of it. But it is nice to have it staged. So that's just another kind of like a, if you can get those photos done, get, you know, and professional photos, obviously don't take your own. We don't do that. Get that done because that'll just help.
I like this book here.
Oh, you want to push?
Yeah, I can push the book, and I thought it was really cool because you know, as much as I know that about mortgages and really take pride in like love and knowledge and, you know, being able to solve different problems, different people's problems that come to me and stuff. There's a lot of so much different things that happen when you're going through divorce that you don't know. And one of them was, you said, the Quidro, and you know, and it's just stuff like that is the class that you went through to get your certification for divorce. Tell me a little bit about that and tell people about that, how that class has helped you and how they can help other people to engage in that process. So not to mention the most important thing is the emotional aspect of going through it yourself, on top of these facts and knowledge. Why it's really important that people work with you.
So after I got into real estate, I learned that there was things called certifications. You can get all kind of different certifications. And I decided that, you know, because what you go through in life really and truly is the best teaching points, and it kind of gives you the most knowledge and ability and skill set to work within. So for me, you know, a lot of real estate agents will choose different aspects and niche areas that they want to focus on, which I think is a great idea. But I just decided that, you know, I had been through divorce. I understand it. And when I found out there was a certification for it, I laughed. And I'm like, well, I should just have that certification. Like, I went through it. You know, I know when you talk to me about, you know, where you're at in the process and your friend of the court meetings, I know what's going to happen. I know your next steps. I know how long this is usually going to take and timeframes and different scenarios. And a lot of times people will say to me, oh, it's really amicable. We're going to really work together on this. And I'm like, I really hope you're that one person. It's a very small percentage of people that typically can use one attorney and work together and have that amicable divorce. That's great when you can do that. Most of us don't have that situation. It's more of a battle, unfortunately. And a lot of that is because of the attorneys. Again, they make more money the longer it takes, the more it drags out. If you can be amicable, that's just your best shot at saving some money.
Is that an oxymoron, an amicable divorce?
Right, it is, but it's
like, it's not.
No, because you're going to end up in the same place. Yeah. You know, one person may say, I don't want this divorce, and they're fighting it. But if the other person is adamant about it and you're going to end up there anyways, you're just prolonging the process. So a lot of those emotional conversations I'm able to have, and I'm able to sit down with the husband and wife, you know, or the partners that are divorcing and basically say, listen, I am here. I work for both of you equally. And my job is to make sure you're both set up properly so you can both move forward. And that's all I want to do for you. I want to make you the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the less amount of stress. Yeah. And so when I saw that there was an actual certification, divorce real estate specialist, I was like, yes, absolutely, I want to do that. And I was able to learn, there's a lot to it. You know, it's not just the process of divorce. There are a lot of legalities involved. And again, you need to talk to that attorney, you need to talk to that financial accountant or financial advisor. But women are usually more emotional, especially when you have kids. So you're looking at it like, I don't want to disrupt these kids' lives. All our memories are here. The school is here. I don't want to pull them out of their school. I'm already having to, you know, pull our family apart. I want to keep the house. Okay. So their whole focus is on the kids, as it should be. The focus should always be on the kids, and that's where the court focuses too. But, you know, they don't always in that realm of mama bear and I want to do my best for my kids. They can't always see financial ramifications for those decisions. Mm-hmm. So let's say right now, house is worth $400,000. Great. And let's say they also have a couple retirement accounts. One of them, let's say, is an IRA. Just to make it easy, let's say it's also worth $400,000. You know, you mentioned a Quadro. and it's a QDRO, and it just basically stands for a Qualified Domestic Relations Order. That is done by a financial advisor, or some attorneys do them, but you'd be surprised, a lot of attorneys actually refer those out to the financial advising world, accountants or whomever focuses on those, because there's a lot into that. They have to take a look at that account, and they have to decide how to allocate funds, based on what's equitable and fair, and based on a numerous amount of things. It's different for everybody. But just because the house is worth $400,000 today doesn't mean it's going to be worth $400,000 possibly in 10 years. When is that house going to be sold? So if the wife, let's say, wants the house, and the husband says, okay, I'm going to get this IRA, that IRA in 10 years is going to appreciate much more than that house, more than likely, depending on how they've got it set up, and how they're diversified, all that stuff. So, it's not that's not equal. What's equitable is not, hey, it looks like it's $400,000 on paper. Hey, maybe that house is going to appreciate in the 10 years. Maybe we'll be in another seller's market and pricing will be amazing. But what if we're not? What if we're in a downturn? Real estate is cyclical. It's cyclical. We're going to have a buyer's market again. We don't know when. We will. Someday we will. And that affects the sale of that house. So I learned a lot about how to have those conversations. Again, since I'm not licensed as that financial advisor or the attorney, all I can do is advise and say, just think through a couple of these things, and without getting too personal and asking for the financial accounts, because I don't need that, but just to, I always recommend, especially if it's a seller's market, why don't you just split that asset now, get your money out of it now, the bird in hand, and then have them allocate the other assets, and just have a clean break 10 years from now.
Cut the umbilical cord.
What if they're both remarried in 10 years?
Yeah.
And then you've got the other spouse now saying, oh, I don't want to give her this. I don't want to give him that.
You make it about the kids
problem.
when you cut it.
Yeah.
Because there's the X factors that happen, what you said with the up and downs of the markets, what happens with the IRAs, is cutting that umbilical cord.
Yes.
You can separate that, I think, is really, really important. And again, go to your attorneys and talk to them, because I'm sure they can give you 1,000 reasons why they say I'm wrong with that. But it's, I do believe from the emotional standpoint, that's the most important thing, is just to get out of your life and breaking those up, cutting those umbilical cords. Because we do have those situations that come where it's like, oh, the wife had, 2 years to refinance,
Right.
and then there's 2 30-day lays, and the husband now wants to buy a house, but he can't buy a house because
Right.
he was on the mortgage and she went late.
And they did
So it's,
left
and then
it.
then the kids are brought into the mix there, and they need a healthy relationship as best you can.
Absolutely.
There, and to cut anything away that can break those, that umbilical cord that can, cause that friction, I think is important. It doesn't always happen, but it's worth considering. Another thing, as you were speaking into talking about Rajo in your classes, the cool thing that I always draw the analogy is always consider like a loan officer that I'm like your attorney, the underwriter's the judge, just like in court.
The underwriter's definitely the judge.
Yeah, the judge is, the judge is, they have a book of laws, and in mortgages it's called all grids. And then within all grids, there's guidelines that they have that we have. Here's a measuring stick that we have for, and the most important thing, if you have good credit and money to buy a house, to put down, to close, is what is the debt to income ratio.
Right.
And this one wasn't with you, but it was just in the last year and a half or so, a client that he had to pay $2,000 in child support, and the car loan was in his name, that it was her car that she was taking for $550 a month. And so, but she was responsible for the car loan in the divorce, judgment of the divorce, and he was responsible for that for 3 years of child support or alimony. And the car had like 39 months left. So I'm like, and they both wanted to sell the marital property, and both wanted to buy a property. They both had to wait almost a year. But all I said, why don't you just $1,500 in child support, and you don't make her responsible for the car payment. You're just responsible for the car payment.
Smart.
So it's weird. Like, I know it might be hard for the audience to understand how that equates into the debt to income ratio. It's not that it's rocket science, but just doing that one thing, and they are already divorced.
Right.
They just did an amendment to the judgment of divorce, and with that one amendment signed by the judge, it took a few weeks, they were able to both buy a house, because his debt to income ratio now was a 9, because she had to have 6 months of payments before he could even considered not including them in his debt to income ratio. So he had to include both the alimony and that. And then she had to, she couldn't use the alimony because she needed to have 6 months. At the time, it was 6 months.
Right. That's
But-
important that you really expound on
Yeah.
that whole, like,
But I don't want to get into the details
how much
with that.
time it takes before you can. So if I'm receiving alimony and child support, and just because that's been in the judgment,
Mhm.
I have to have it for a specific amount of time before you can do anything with it for me.
But the moral of the story is not like trying to paint the picture. The actual guidelines is that there is guidelines and there's a solution. It's kind of like a story problem like we're in high school. Like it really is comes down to just thinking about it. I like that analogy. It's like a story problem, like when you're in middle school and like you have to solve, write out this solution for it. There is a solution when you're going through this that makes sense. And if you have situations where it's an amicable divorce, and even if it's not an amicable divorce, you just send a text and just say, would you be considered? If it makes sense, try to do that. But when you attack these solutions and you try to break that umbilical cord, there is a lot of stuff that can be done that really, it protects both parties and there's no reason. It's like 1 + 1 = 3.
Right.
And that can happen. So as you, again, step into this process, those are the things that you can make a difference. The attorneys can solve a lot and, bring us into the mix on these because we can help, and the attorneys are the ones to listen to, of course. We're not the attorneys, but we can say, this isn't the mortgage. These are the solutions that we can come up with. Take this to the attorney. A lot of these, like in this situation, it was like,
Write it up. Yeah, just write it. It saves time.
It's
back and forth. The more you can do, and you can sit down at a table together and work it out together, the better it is. Because then you can just say, we've agreed on this. We want you to just basically write it up and file it with the judge. So getting back though, backing up a little bit. So if I'm newly divorced and I have alimony for, 3 years, let's say, and I have child support, obviously my kids are younger, it's going to be, a good amount of time, at least 10 years I'm going to have child support. How long do I have to wait to buy a house before that is considered income that's factored in?
child support is a little bit less. It's 3 months on child support.
Okay.
So if you're getting divorced and you're receiving child support, it's 3 months. And actually, we got my wife's across from me. It's 3 months for both, or 6 months for conventional 3 months.
FHA, 3 months.
FHA is 3 months.
And
Conventional
conventional, 6 months.
6 months. I've been in the 25 years in the business, and she's 5, and she already.
But that's why you have her, because she's your detail person.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, because typically we tell our clients conventional is stronger to get offers accepted, because FHA, has that secondary appraisal, could be issues with, with inspection, and sellers, regardless, we know it's a great product, but sellers still have it in their head that they're like, oh, with the FHA. But in this scenario, FHA, you only have to have the income, the child support for 3 months, and then it's considered income.
Yeah.
With conventional, you have to wait 6.
Yeah.
So with somebody getting divorced, they're going to be looking at an FHA product, unless they want to live, with family or with someone for a longer period of time. But in that situation, that's where FHA actually wins, because their guideline is a little bit more, understanding, a little bit more flexible.
No, and it's as you step into the process and you're going through it, it's like there's so many if thens, and even as I'm telling you, the 3 and the 6 months, and that's the one thing in the mortgage business. So one thing I know when I'm talking to a good mortgage person, it's like they know and they're wise to say, I'm not sure of the answer.
Right.
I gotta double check it because it always changes.
March 11th, 2022. This is what it is.
March
But
17th, it'll be
ask
good.
me next week.
Actually, I appreciate us being live. Let me tell you why. Because my friend Frank, are you watching? I think you're watching. Because he's watching us live, sent me the guideline. He just corrected me. We are correct. But going back to your debt to income, if this is a primary residence, the debt to income is 40% and lower, and they have 6 months reserves, we can use 3 months for
Oh.
conventional.
Okay.
Okay.
So again, going back to your debt to income scenario, if you start weighing that out and what you're talking about, your past clients, if either one of the spouses are 40% debt to income or less, you can use 3% with 6 months in reserves.
That's
So
great.
if
Yeah,
you
within the IRAs, 401k.
yeah, if you split your IRAs and you get financially set up, it's 3 months on time. on time.
On time, right.
On
Well,
time.
use the
Has
front
to
of the
be
court.
paid
Always use the front of the court.
on time. Well, that's a whole different
Always
conversation.
use the front
So
of the
thank
court.
you, Frank.
Thank you, Frank.
We appreciate
We
you.
do appreciate that.
Beautiful Christina Cece Machieski there. And
Yeah, you
just
guys
thinking
can't
that
see her. She's sitting in the background, but
as we go
she's our
through-
esteemed peanut gallery. I love it.
she keeps us on task and keeps us focused.
Yes.
And she's our technical guru over here.
We can't do it without her.
You know,
'Cause
kinda-
neither one of us would be able to have this thing.
Thinking of our discussion,
Go.
and I'm sure everybody's going to want to sit here for an hour and a half. No.
On a Friday night,
just,
they don't have anything else better to do. Are you kidding me? They're all like, oh my
all
god, how
four.
many are talking?
but it's
Wait, does that mean I get to do carry out? I don't have to cook dinner?
Yes, that's exactly what it means. It's Friday. Who cooks on Friday? Actually, isn't it Fish Friday or whatever?
Something like
Something
that.
like that. You can go get your fish fry and let's cook.
I didn't even
Or
realize that I had
just
meat today by
mushroom.
accident, so I'm
Yeah.
that Catholic.
Or the mushroom risotto at our favorite restaurant.
There you go. Well, I'm not Catholic, but I'm going to join on the bandwagon so I don't have to cook on Fridays.
There you go.
There you go.
But I think there's so much more that we could talk about. The moral of the story is that there's like, we're going to take where you're at, analyze everything, and there's so much, you know.
There's a
You're
lot.
going to rate the money's green that I'm going to give you, but it's all the information and the knowledge and the heart that will give you to kind of navigate a solution for you. And there is a lot that can be done, and insight and advice that we can give that can speak into like your solution, so you have an understanding of how to approach it. And well, one thing that made me think of is the situation we have with the customer right now. Divorce is not finalized.
Right.
What advice do you have for somebody where it's not quite finalized? I know I have some advice. I'm kind of leading you into this, but I'll let you speak into
As a buyer?
Yeah, as a buyer, if like you're going through a divorce, but it's not finalized, and
Right.
and they don't even have all the paperwork drawn up yet. What do they do?
Super important. I'm glad you brought that up. So what people need to understand is, in Michigan, I speak to Michigan, and I'm pretty sure it's probably similar other places, but if you go out and say, you know what, we filed for divorce, I want out of here, I'm going to go buy a house right now.
Mm.
If you're still married, it's still considered marital property. So that other spouse could then come back to you and say, well, this is another asset. So that's why a lot of times when people are getting divorced, they may have a family member buy a house for them, and then they turn around and quick claim it over to them afterward, and then work on maybe, doing some sort of a refinance or, to pay the person back, because it is an asset. You're not fully divorced yet. So what's really important is, if you know this divorce, and with minor children, it's the law, the rule is supposed to be 6 months with minor children. Can you push it up? I mean, some people would say possibly, but that's basically the guideline. They want 6 months with minor children divorces, so they can't just be so fast. They want you to think about what you're doing, put the kids first, all that good stuff. You have to go to like a meeting called Smile. There's a lot involved with it. But
There's a lot of smiles,
Oh,
right?
there's no
Divorce.
smiles. You go in that room and nobody's smiling, but it's their intents are good to protect the kids.
Yeah.
So in that realm though, can you buy when you're not divorced yet? Well, if you talk to your attorney, you get something written up, and again, the underwriter has to accept it, because that's a big thing too. The underwriter accepts it, that that the other spouse is giving you permission that yes, they're not going to come back. This is 100% your asset. The money you're taking as a down payment, you got to make sure that's money that you're allowed to take. You don't want to have them come back to you and say, wait a minute, you dipped into the funds, and those hadn't been allocated yet. So it does need to be a court order. If the divorce is final, it'll, everything's in the judgment of divorce. It's final. It's easier. But it doesn't always work out that you can wait, want to get out. I understand that. So you do need to be covered legally with your attorney, the correct paperwork, whatever the court order looks like, so that you don't have an issue when you go to close, that this spouse can then say, oh, the divorce isn't final yet. And by the way, you forgot about this asset that she just bought a house, or he just bought a house. Really super important. Again, don't be so focused on the emotional, I gotta get out of this, that you don't think through the process. You don't realize you can't just go buy a house, because that's a marital asset. Especially if you're using marital money.
Going through it,
Joint account.
And sometimes it can happen, because I know we've had situations together specifically that we have gotten past it and have people close before that divorce was finalized. And we also had a situation where they, were going through it, everything was fine, and then thank God we were able to close because we came up with a solution for him.
Right.
But right before we were able to close, find out that the spouse was like, no, well, I decided I'm not going to do what I told you I was going to do. And
Right.
I'm not going to sign that letter. And
Right.
it created a problem. I said, unfortunately, we came up with a solution, which was great.
Right.
But and I do believe it can be solved and it can happen. 100%, it can happen. But just make sure, like you said, like you're just emotionally when you go through it that you just got your ducks in because everything seems like it's being fine.
Right.
And you want to get to that other side or get that separation, and it's there's a lot of stuff that can happen, and we're there to advise you and protect you with it, and then you're the or I want to say protect you, but give you the advice to protect yourself, and we genuinely do want to help protect you, but we're here we're advisors and give insight, and ultimately everybody's just their own person. So
Right.
hopefully we'll give you advice that'll protect you and get you to the other side. So
Exactly. And that situation you're referring to, we just talked about buying a home. That situation takes into account someone that's purchasing a home and you need it in writing to find out what is your responsibility. Are you paying alimony? Are you paying child support? Because again, underwriters get a little nervous because they don't know. Are you going to pay $2,000 a month? Are you going to pay $3,000 a month? Sometimes they just need that letter or that judge, something that's basically agreed on both parties.
it's called a contingent liability. If there's any aspect in the loan that the underwriter has an understanding that there could be a contingent liability, it's up to them to make sure to protect the buyer from that. So it's like as a lender, we're responsible for these type of things. And the debt to income ratio, we got to make sure that we're not setting, especially after the foreclosure crisis, we're not setting people up for failure. We don't want to do that, but it's really important and it keeps the integrity of the industry in place. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We do have to wrap this up. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. We're going to do a second, third, and fourth part.
No, this is
We
not
will. We
Yeah.
can talk all day, so.
Really, we can. So I just want to be the little voice here. We do have to start saying goodbye. Your phone has
Oh, my phone's dying.
Yeah,
So that's what's going on here. I'm a real estate agent. I didn't charge my phone.
It's like not bringing
So-
a business card.
Right. I didn't charge my phone. So, but I think we covered pretty much everything. There's a lot in this. There's a lot. And really, like you started off saying, come talk to us. Let's sit down. Let's have a conversation and make that plan.
Yep.
So,
Sounds good.
and with that, happy Friday.
Yes.
Happy weekend.
Have a good weekend, and next week 60s.
Oh my gosh, I saw that. I'm so excited. Yeah. It's supposed to be 60, 65 degrees. I heard next Thursday, but
If it's next Friday,
Who
we're gonna be
knows?
doing outside. We're doing outside.
I can't wait till we can do outside stuff. That'll be fun. It'd be great.
Goodbye, Facebook world and YouTube world.
Yes, you guys have a fabulous weekend. Be blessed. Take care. Reach
So
out
we
to
have to
us
say
anytime.
click below and subscribe.
I
or
do.
something?
I have to, click below and subscribe. Oh, if you want a copy of my book, the online copy, it's free. I did put the link in the description. All you have to do is go there, put your information. You'll be brought to a page where you have full access to it. It's a great book. It's a lot of great information. And as always, if you need help, give us a call.
And don't forget to hit the bell for notifications.
Yes, notifications on
For-
Facebook
for YouTube.
and for YouTube too. You can do it on Facebook too, though, right? Notifications when
Oh,
someone
yeah,
goes live.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Yes.
notifications on Facebook and hit the bell on YouTube. And of course, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. So that's it.
All
That's
that.
all we have.
That's all.
Over now.
Have a good weekend.
You guys take care. Be blessed. Bye-bye.
I
Cheers.